good morning, everybody. Glad you guys are here with us this morning. We got Fred here again, repeat customer. So glad to have him on. And the nice thing I like about Fred when he comes in, he's always very organized. The information he's got for you today is really, really good. I've looked through it. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. I think you're going to be as happy as I am with the stuff we're going to learn. And, appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to go ahead and make the announcement. I think we're going to start moving this thing to 7 o'clock on Sunday nights, because I know that we're having a lot of people, including myself, that's having a hard time getting in at the time frame that we had, especially with kids' games and coaching responsibilities. And so if you have anything you want to change or can't be there at Sunday at 7, just drop me an email and we'll look at something different. But I think, like I said, from now on, I think we're going to move it to 7 o'clock Sunday nights. Hey, glad everybody's here. And Fred, I'll turn it over to you. I'm excited. It's all yours, sir.
All right, thanks. Well, good morning, all. Good morning, guys. Pretty much everything I have, like I was saying beforehand, these are handouts that I give to the players, and it helps them with job expectations. The title of whatever Warren sent you is very much a working title. It's very long and stupid. But I'm not a wordsmith. I'm an economics teacher and a soccer coach, so it's really a lot of it's really simple. There's some that I'm going to tell you this now. I think every slide, with the exception of the first slide today, everything is stolen. So we're teachers, we're coaches, that's what we do. That being said, at the request of the people I stole it from, I have put their names in the like the articles that things were published in. I have put those on all the slides in case you want to go and have a look at those, look at the direct source. But I mean, it's well, I steal stuff and I'm just not creative. So I go out and I take as many ideas as I can from other people. But as you go through, and I'm sure as you guys start, and you got Venable on there who's going to be a mute again, but as you guys start doing these presentations yourselves and things like that, I know those people are always appreciative when their work gets acknowledged. So even though we're all thieves, let's be acknowledged thieves and work with that. Hey, Warren, you think you can shift it over to me so I can start the presentation, or are you going to work it from your end? Cool. All righty. And there's a share screen button. You'd think I'd be better at this since I do it every single day in class. All righty. Just pulling the stuff up here. Where's my present button? Like I said, that's our intro. As soon as it loads, that's the only thing that's not stolen. If you have any questions, I've shared this with Warren. Warren, I'm sure I'll put it available on the shared document that I'm hoping all of you have access to by this point. Yeah, so working title, just kind of threw it together. Basic overview, I do give all the players job descriptions. We do it based off of the thirds of the field, but I'd like to include the goalkeeper every once in a while and make them feel good about themselves because we always ignore them. But just a job description of the goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders, and forwards. We use that in conjunction with the numbering system. I'll go over the numbering system in a little bit, but it really helps the players understand, especially when we're putting them in a new spot or I'm putting them in a new spot. Just to understand what the expectations are at those general positions and specific positions. And the way I actually have this, I'm working kind of from the end result back to the beginning, because the first thing that I do work on with my players are just your basic principles of play. That way I can throw 11 bodies on the field who are all central midfielders and say, all right, you're all doing this, just go based off your principles of play. That's what your job description is. Here's your area of the field. So I start with the principles of play with the players, and then I move on out to the numbering system, and then eventually we get to the job description. So I'm kind of going backwards learning on this one. As you can see, I stole this. I hand out all 4 of these as slides to all of the players. So all the players are familiar with the job descriptions of every single position, of the 4 positions on the field there. This was stolen at the time. Shellis Heidman was the Dallas or FC Dallas head coach. This was stolen directly from him from one of his clinics. He was kind enough to share it with us, and all I did was take off FC Dallas and put my little Liberty crest right there up on the top. Those of you who know Shellis Heidman know that he knows this stuff, and I bet he stole this from like Bill Bezic or something like that anyway. So, but this is who I stole it from. that way, if I have a kid who I'm putting at an outside back, so I mean, these are just like it shows the goalkeepers, defenders in and out of possession, midfielders in and out of possession, and then forwards in and out of possession. With these, if I have a kid who I have as a outside back, and he keeps telling me, Coach, I really think I can do it as a midfielder. I was like, okay, well, tell me about the job description of a midfielder. What are the expectations of players in our midfield? If we're working with 6 or 8s, or we're working with 7s and 11s who are not strikers but are holding back, outside mids in this case, what I'll do is I'll say, well, what are the expectations of our midfielders? What are some of these things that you need to work on? What are some of these things that you feel you're good at if we give you this opportunity? And based off their answers, I will give the kid an opportunity, or I'll give the player an opportunity. It's probably in our practice, because we'll do 11v11s when we're trying out formations and stuff. I'll give the player the opportunity to sink or swim on some of these things. Now, if I have everyone and their mom wants to be a forward, and especially if they're a defender, and I'm a defender by trade, and I always wanted to score goals, even though I was terrible at it. But whenever they ask me on my new team, oh, who's a forward, I was always the first one to raise my hand. I'm a goal scorer. It's like, I'm not. I'm a center back. I know that. But with this, it gives the opportunity for the kids to buy in a little bit more, because they have to learn the expectations. And even if they don't want to try out the different positions, like, at least they now know what the expectations are for those players. So as we're playing, the backs understand where the midfielders are supposed to be at on the field, what the midfielders are supposed to be doing with the ball, like down here, where the expectation is in the defensive third, see ball, kick ball. If we have somebody open, I'm from the old West German 4-3-3 stopper sweeper, but that's what the West Germans used to do back in the 80s, was defensive area, see ball, kick ball, ball go away, because if it's not in our third, they can't score on us. I'm still kind of that mindset. I'm starting to get a little bit more into the possession part in the defensive third, but I'm very much a possession person in the middle third of the field. So in the middle third of the field, though, we do want to possess, but middle third is where you're going to have about 60% of your players at any given time. So everything has to be 1-2 touch. You have to have your head up. You need to think forward, look forward, run forward, pass forward for our midfielders. We want to be looking forward. There's a great new stat, not really new. It's probably about 3 or 4 years old. The Germans used it in the last World Cup. It's called the packing stat. And what that is it ignores backwards passes and possession. However, if I'm a defender and I make a play to, I make a play to the 8, and we skip three of the players on the other team, I get 3 points for that one. So it's a number of players that we are able to eliminate based off of one play. And what the Germans found, because it's the freaking Germans, and again, that's what I follow. What the Germans found, though, was that the packing stat was very indicative of wins and losses more than any other stat. Because possession, I mean, yes, you can have 90% possession, but we've seen games or played in games where I've hammered the living crap out of another team. I have 90% possession and I lose 1-0. Well, it's because my possession was pointless. My possession was possession in the defensive third. It wasn't possession going forward and things like that. So anyway, getting off topic, but now my defenders and my midfielders know, hey, if we're in the middle third of the field, the expectation is it's 1-2 touch. We have to release the ball. We have a little bit more safety here, but we can still have turnovers. Okay. And then in the offensive third, and that's kind of what I tell the players. I've kind of backed off on it because I really don't like my phrasing of it. Is the back 2/3 are the defensive 2/3 of the field. Those are mine. The offensive third is yours. That's where you get to get creative. You get to take too many touches, and now that's why I keep changing things on that one, is because we will try to pass the ball into the back of the net instead of having to take shots from inside and outside the 18. So like I said, I haven't told my players that this year, but most of them know the expectation. If we screw up in the offensive third, we still have 2/3 of the field back, but we're going to keep, we're going to be smart in the defensive 2/3. But when the players know all these things, it really, these are the job descriptions. These are the characteristics that coaches looking for when I'm playing in that position. I dislike when forwards are lazy on defense. If a forward turns the ball over, if a player turns the ball over, I'm sure you guys are the same way as I am. It kind of ticks me off, and my player's just like, oh crap, and they just kind of stand up, and the play goes on without them. It's like, well, dude, it's your fault. Go win the freaking ball back. So that's one of the expectations, especially for my forwards too, is in defending. If we're running with 3 up top, because we've been toying with the 4-3-3 quite a bit, is you're when we're not when we're not on offense. When we are on defense and the keeper has the ball, especially with the goal kick rule that got instituted this year, our forwards are going to have to be smart because some teams are going to start playing goal kicks into the box. So if our forwards aren't paying attention, they're able to get possession. If our forwards are paying attention, they're able to snipe that ball and pop one in the back of the net on a quick turn. So that's kind of what we do. And with those job descriptions, as I said, that's the third thing my kids get. Actually, the first thing they get is this right here. This is stolen straight from USSF. Please don't tell them because I'm sure they'll be pissed. This is just a basic little slide. It's nothing all that important. If you go on Google, you can find it everywhere, but this is from a USSF presentation. And they're really anal about you copying and pasting and using them, but I will tell you that's where I got it from. If you Google systems of play, position numbers, and player profiles, that's where I had down in the corner there of where I got it from. This is your basic thing. Now, with this, it also tells you player profiles on there if you can access this document online. You should be able to, because when I tried this morning, I was able to steal it from there again. But it tells you what I'm looking, if I'm running a 4-3-3, if I'm running a 4-3-3, and I'm running it this way, I'm running it with, a 6 and 2/8 or a 6, 8 and a 10 is the way that they do it. This is what I'm looking for from my outside back. These are the characteristics of play that I'm looking for. Okay. This is the type of attitude that I'm looking for from these players. My center backs, this is what the expectation is from the center back. So it gets even more specific than the previous slides, just talking about all these things. It also helps when we're trying to change formations in the middle of a game or just at the beginning of a new game. Now, one thing I'll say is I never try any formation that we haven't practiced before because you're setting players up for failure. Right now, almost every single one of my players is playing in a 4-3-3 that looks something like this. This seems to be the new formation that everyone and their mom wants to do, which is fine. But the problem is that while they're playing this in their club, I'm stuck with 6 3s. So one of my threes, I have 6 3s who are all really good at that position, but I need a 6 or I need an 11. Well, 3 is pretty close to an 11 when it comes to this, but the expectations change based off of the position that it's going to be. So this might work for them during club because they have the coach is able to pick up all those players at those positions and be able to throw it out. But this might not work for us. I might have to run a 3-5-2 or a 4-5-1 or something like that. So as a result, when the players get this stuff here and they see what the expectation is, if it's time for us to change to a new formation, I can say we're running essentially a 4-5-1. My 7 and 11s, I need you to drop back, play a little bit more of a 3 and a 2. You can go up in the attack, but we're going a little bit more defensive on this one. That's if we're running a 4-5-1 as a defensive formation as opposed to an offensive formation, because if you look at this 4-3-3 here, this is a 4-5-1. If you, just depending on what you have your 7s and your 11s do. Okay. But when I can tell kids off the bench, I see something that's going wrong and we need to change the formation, I can say, hey, look, I'm pulling you off. I need you to act as a 3 more than an 11. Or I'm putting you on. I need you to communicate that we're now essentially playing with 3 8s. And go tell the 7 and 11 that they're now 8s. So they need to ping. So what that tells them, based off of the players hopefully paying attention to their job descriptions and us practicing it, is my 7 and 11 are now going to be pinching in a little bit more. We're playing more central game. What that also is going to end up happening is my 2 and my 3s are now eventually going to be on the attack. Especially they're going to be coming up and playing a little bit more offensively, because the 7 and 11 are going to be pinched in. I'm just trying to smash the middle of the field there. So when I'm able to tell players that, and back when I was growing up, this is one of the first things that we were taught in U8 soccer, and it was a little bit different how the numbers went. But the players today, they're not taught this. Coaches today, I don't see coaches being taught this. I'm going back through all of my USSF licensing, and I haven't seen it yet. Warren might be able to step in and talk about when that'll actually be brought up. It might be in the D, the C, or the B. But even coaches aren't being taught this. Not that big a deal if you're not familiar with the numbering system and with those player positions. But if you learn those and you get your players to learn those, you have that much more of an edge against your opposing team when it comes time to make those changes in mid-game or partial game. Warren?
Yeah, I'll just jump in. It is actually starting to get introduced into all the different discussions, but most of the modules like the 7-aside, the 9-aside, 11-aside. 11-aside is when you first start seeing it, and then the new D license. So the pathways kind of all mixed in together. So now they're talking about the positions.
Which makes sense. Now, I mean, 4v4 is kind of hard, but like with the 77, are they talking at all about? I mean, I haven't seen it. Well, but I got mine before. I haven't seen it where they're talking about setting the 77 up in something that's complementary to what the 11v11 is eventually going to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes and no. So I mean, basically, it's pretty deep, just the numbering system with positioning, but they're trying to get it to where it goes from the basics to the biggest. Because a lot of times when you're talking to 7-on-7 coach, it's more about organizing a practice. So the 7-on-7, the 11-aside, and the 4-aside. So it's more time on organizing a practice and giving an effective practice than it is about really positioning and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is understandable because again, your 7 and 4 sides, that's generally your little kids, and they're more concerned with picking daisies and chasing the ice cream truck than they are at staying focused on the field. So I get that.
Well, and then a lot of fairness, if you go around and watch any little kid practice, you see a lot of standing in line, stuff like that.
That's true.
And so what U.S. Soccer's done a really good job, and that's totally off topic, but they're starting to teach people how to teach. And so really those modules, and like I said, for any coach, that 11-aside, I'll give a little plug to the new system, but 11-aside and the D course are both packed with really good stuff, and just organizing a practice from beginning to end.
And putting a plug in too is here, at least in North Texas, and I know South Texas and West Texas is working on it too. We've got agreements in place, at least with North Texas, where you can get your, it'll be the, it's not in person called anymore. It's the modified or whatever hybrid model, where it's a 2-hour essential Zoom call and then a 2-hour in-person session for your 11v11 and your 9v9, and we're working on doing that for $25 if you guys want to get those licenses. So that'll be coming hopefully in the near future. But both those are, I mean, they'll either be taught by somebody like Warren or Dave Simeone or Brian Thompson, or even Gary said he might do those, and then we'll have them here in North Texas at least, and I know they're working on South Texas. So, all right, let's stop plugging USSF. Well, before I do that, again, when you get access to these slides, go down to the bottom, just copy and paste that, throw that in Google. You'll be able to pull up, and I think it's like a 12-page PDF document. That is super helpful for that kind of stuff. So if you want to steal that stuff, it's available online, despite USSF not wanting it there, and it's really good information. So just take it and go. All right. I'd say the last thing for me, but it's actually the first thing. Hold on here, I get distracted by the chat. Yeah. Cool. Dadgummit, sorry, I've got hypersensitive mouse today. These, your defending principles of play and then your attacking principles of play, these are very, very basics. I know USSF does touch on these. I know United Soccer Coaches hammers these home. These were all still stolen from Dave Newberry. I'm not sure if Dave's done one of these sessions for us yet, but he will. If you've been to our clinic in the past for the last, I think, 4 years, Dave's been there. These were stolen from him and Ian Barker. They have it's defending principles and attacking principles thing online that you can. It's through United Soccer Coaches. At the time it was NSCAA. Those are available online, but I yanked these straight from Dave's defending and attacking principles. These are the basics that all my players have to understand. I can throw 11 of my players out onto a field, and I can throw around all their positions. And if I tell them, look, I'm just looking for defensive principles today, that's all we're working on, my players know the first 3 words out of my mouth are going to be pressure, cover, balance. Okay. Ball is always first threat, so we're going to have someone pressuring the ball. What's the job of the pressure player? We're glad you asked. And it runs through each one of these. I give these out to all my players as well. I'm still old school, so I still print all these out. But I mean, it describes what each one of these is. It's like, you know, your job as a pressure player is to delay. You are not. I mean, yes, it's nice if you can steal the ball from them. We would love for you to steal the ball from them. But your primary job as a pressure player is to delay so that we can have help get behind you. Okay. And then the next defender that comes up is our cover player. They're covering the pressure player, all that fun stuff. And I bet you a lot of this stuff is stuff you already know, so I'm not going to go through all these in depth. And then this is where, for the most part, for my JV, this is where we end things at. We go over pressure, cover, balance. And then that three things defensively seem to be all that they can take with their teeny tiny little freshman brains. And then we go from there. As they've been playing in our system for a while, we talk about compactness, and we do talk about compactness with the JV just because when it's compact, it's hard to move the ball and things like that. But this is a little bit more getting towards my older players, my varsity players. And then finally, improvisation, creativity, and surprise. This is also your final attacking principle. They've thrown this into defensive well because, if there are already 10 players that are in the ball, well, where do you need to be at? Maybe we've got 10 players who are all compact, who are all playing defense. We're about to win the ball, and I'm the left back, and things are happening on the right side. I may have just turned into an 11 then. It's time for me to hustle my butt forward. Everything's happening on the right side of the field to play. And now I have to be creative. I have to go from being a left back to being a forward. I'm now the left forward, so I'm waiting for my team to make that transition to the opposite way. And oh, by the way, it's being creative, and it's going to surprise the opposing players when all of a sudden, I've just turned from a 3 into an 11. So, and then the attacking principle, same thing. I'll throw players out into a 66 or 77, something like that, and say, all right, defenders, you're now 9, 7s, and 11s, and 7s, 11s, you're now defenders. All we're looking here is at our attacking principles of play. You got to penetrate the score. So our first job is always trying to look forward for the ball. And this goes back to, like I said, the German packing stat, where yes, it's nice to have possession, but the Italians and the Spanish will tell you that we can have 90% possession and still lose to the Dutch because the Dutch will counterattack on us. So when we're talking penetration, we're talking penetrating passes, penetrating runs. Because as a player with the ball, I'm looking forward. I'm looking to score those goals. That's my job as an attacker, and you don't have to tell your nines that because they already know it. But I'm looking to go forward. If I can't go forward, well, what's my next option? I'm looking for my support players, or I'm looking to be a support player. If there's nothing that we can go through, maybe my 7 has the ball, and I'm the 6, and he's got no way because the 9 and 10 are already marked up top. So he might be looking for a square player. He might be looking for the actual supporting play. He might be looking for a 3. If we can't do that, then it's mobility. This is where we start talking. This is a lot of your off the ball movement, your backside runs and things like that, where we're bringing the ball down the left side of the field. And so now our 7 is making that run to the corner. So that way our 8 or our 3 can do that large backside switch. And hopefully we're catching them off guard on the big switch instead of taking it through the center of the field. Width again. Width is width. It's the exact opposite of compactness. When we're playing defense, we like everything to be compact because it's easier to win the ball. When on an offense, we want to be as wide as we possibly can. That way we're spreading out the field, we're creating more space, and that's going to hopefully see us have more successful passes since the defense has that much more that they need to cover. And then, especially in the offensive third, improvising, being creative, and offering surprise backside runs. Different wall passes, overlapping runs, especially this is your fun time with your back heels and where the kids like to get real creative and do their crazy crap. For me, again, it's kind of my principle for our team that this is offensive third type attacking things. That being said, I do have a player who I'm looking at as a center back who I might let dribble up the freaking field this year. He's kind of a stud, and he can take on players one-on-one, but he's just defensive minded. So I'm looking at him as a 2 or a 3, actually a 3 or 4. I don't know. He'll try something, but he's going to be running from the back at this point. I just don't know. But for him, I might not have a problem if he's trying to take players one-on-one in the defensive third where he's the last defender. We'll see. And that might just be wishful thinking on my part, but he's a defensive player with an attacking mindset. So he's one of the fun ones that I like to have. So in terms of, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing if I can figure out how to, there we go, stop sharing. I'm a Yankee, so I do talk fast. So I apologize in advance. Well, I apologize now. I probably should have said that at the beginning. And I know I went through those kind of fast. But again, those are things that you guys just pop on and steal those things. Like I said, they were stolen anyway, that you can institute with your players. We give all of our players a player's notebook at the beginning of the year. These are the kinds of things that we have in it. I do have some of those USSF things that we're not supposed to copy and paste and share, and I do it anyway because I'm trying to help my team win. So but the kids get those job descriptions for each of those players. And it cuts down a lot on a lot of the in-season meetings that we get, because players are always like, Coach, you have me playing right back, but I'd really like to try this. It's like, well, it cuts down on a lot of those things, but it also helps us explain to players, hey, I understand that this is where you would like to be, but this is where your strengths are at. This is how you can help the team. I know you're a 3, but I need an 11 this year. So we're going to have to be working on fitness. It's going to be a little bit more of the expectation. You're going to have to go a little bit more box to box. Yeah. So getting those players who aren't happy with their position, or at least when you have those conversations when they're not happy with their position, and getting them to understand what the expectation is for the new position, all these resources, when they have those and they can study them. For us, we spend part of 2 of our days every week. We're fortunate enough to have block scheduling, and we're only get our 300 minutes. And so I've got 150 minutes where we have to not play soccer. We'll do assignments based off the job descriptions, or based off of, hey, we're looking at changing this formation. What do you guys think? Who give us a starting 11? Where do you see yourself on this one? Or you're currently the backup 2. What do you need to do in order? Like, what does the player ahead of you have that you don't, or that you need to work on, or what do you have that they don't have, and we as coaches just aren't seeing it. So that's about it for the presentation side of it. I know that's a shorter one for our weekend sessions. They usually go a little bit longer than that. But again, I probably could have drug it out a little bit if I talk slower, but I just don't do that. So, Warren, turn it back over to you, and we can go to hangout time if you'd like.
All right. No, it sounds good. Hey, notice right quick, I know that somebody said they didn't know about the resource page, and everything we've had since day one, back when it started way back in March. I've listed out, I made a resource page. You guys have access to it. So all these PowerPoints, including this one, and everyone in the past that we've covered, is contained in that one spot. Also, if you haven't already done so and you want to be on the contact list where you get a private email invite that we send out whenever we lock in the weekly webinar, is put into that Google Sheets contact page, if you will. So if you'll sign up, if you haven't signed up for the contact sheet, it's listed up there in the Tasco Webinars contact list. Or if you want a copy of this and all the previous presentations, it's there in the resource page. Okay. And then, good to see you, Jimmy. This was awesome. You got your neck gaiter on. Safety first, right?
I'm sorry, Coach. I say, if you want that USSF one that I mentioned in there, I do have a copy of that. If you shoot me an email, I'll just send that to you. Hopefully they don't care, but I mean, I don't work for them.
I don't think they'll mind. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's for all of us, and so it's part of the deal. A couple things in right quick. I know that I asked this in the beginning, but I'm looking at moving this to 7 o'clock on Sunday nights just because I'm having a rough time getting, we got football coming up and 9 o'clock meetings. Plus, most people have club and kid commitments on Saturday morning. So if you're okay with that, if you'll put yay or nay in the panel deal, it's been pretty much overwhelmingly in favor of moving to Sunday, which will be a lot easier for all of us. And then that way we're all in. Because it's been powerful. I mean, like this and every other, you can tell the quality's been good. Just Fred's presentation was awesome today. I picked up a lot of things. I'm going to steal his little notebook idea. And I'm going to put that out because I agree with Mark. It's probably something I need to do a better job of as well. So that was good stuff. And then kind of touch base, I want to kind of brag on Fred for a second. He has been working hard with North Texas, as well as I believe in working with South Texas, getting that 11-a-side and in-person, the grassroots courses as part of the webinars, where we'll get the 2 hours, the online 2 hours within the Tasco presentations. And then now we'll also have people go out to where you're at, or in an area where you can get to for the 2 hour on field. So hopefully we get everybody licensed up and ready to go. The goal, I know from the North Texas side, is to eventually have enough people to host a high school specific D license, which I think would be exciting. So it'd be geared more towards the high school coach with the same content that you have in the D, but really emphasizing on the high school part of it, if that makes sense. And so hats off to you, Fred, and I thank you for that. All right, so with that, I'll open up to any questions. Anybody have any questions for Fred?
You've also got Jason Venable and Austin Guest and Coach Kruger and Warren on here too. So I mean, those are guys that I go to, and I got questions too. So just any questions in general, you got a pretty good group of guys to help you out.
Hey, I want to throw this in. Yeah, please ask questions or it look like we are every day of the week. I don't know if your classes are like mine. I'm expecting just to see 2 letters up there and a mute sign and hope to God you're there. No. So now if you have questions, please ask. I mean, we're here for you. And that's what the whole idea is behind this Tactical webinar. Or comments. Does anybody use the same thing that Fred's got or have a version of it you'd like to share?
Coach Kaiser, when you get a chance, would you talk about the packing stat and how you use it? And do you break it down, or when the kids are watching it with you, do you have them count it? Could you talk more about that?
I got introduced to packing shoot actually by our golf coach, who he coached soccer a long time, and he has his A license too, so he knows what he's talking about. But I first started using it specifically just in small-sided games, and then as we started getting onto a little bit bigger with the 7v7, and all we were doing, we were just working. We said we were working on penetration, but my coach and I were counting the packing stat. Eventually, we'd tell them a score at the beginning. We told them their score at the end of the game, and a lot of times they had no idea why. It was kind of a problem-based learning type thing. I'm not sure if that's the way to introduce it anymore, but we were trying to get them to figure that stuff out. And then eventually we just started doing it where we're doing, we'll use a 40 by 60 field and go 66 or something like that. You get so many points for a goal and then so many points for a penetrating pass. And then we actually have the kids start just paying attention to that. And then what we also did as part of the introduction was we found a lot of our old game film where like in 13, 14, and 15, we had some pretty solid teams, but almost every goal that we gave up was on an interception on passes across the back line, or from an 8 dropping it down to 8 or 6 dropping it down to one of the defenders and it being intercepted by like a super fast kid or something like that and going in and scoring a goal. So we just talked about, what were we thinking? Or what do you think the team was thinking 6 years ago now? What do you think the players were thinking when they were making that pass? Have we made passes like that before? And almost invariably, a lot of our players with the higher IQ, they're like, well, they're looking to maintain possession. You're up 3-0 at that point. We don't, it's nice to score goals and stuff, but there's only 10 minutes to 12 minutes left in the game. Okay, so we're looking for the possession, and just so they don't have the ball and can't score on us. It's like, well, is the back line the right place to do it? So we start talking about, where should we be? Possession's great. Where should we be doing it? And then when we're looking at, from a defensive side near the end of the game, but also if we're trying to score goals near the end of the game, a lot of teams, they'll go from teams that are really, really well built for a more indirect style of play where they're doing this small build and the slow build across the back, and then they're making it to the middle, and then they get people making outside runs and the ball's to the corner, and then the ball's passed in, and off we go and score. Well, if I'm down 3-2 and there's 2.5 minutes left, we're looking at a different style of soccer there. It turns, for my team, and it's probably not the right way of going about doing it, it turns a little bit more into a dump and chase. We have to get down there. We can't score goals if we're not in the offensive third. If we can't, and so the packing stat helps you with that of possessions that skip the number of players. Did it get us our penetrating runs? Also, from the defensive side of it, what were the results when we were just passing the ball and possessing, so we can look at time of possession versus penetrating passes and see the difference in the style of play and the difference in the result. I can say, Coach, if you want, shoot me an email or shoot me a text. I can send you a couple articles on it that'll probably describe it better than me. It'll probably be a lot less wordy, but I'll be glad to send those to you. But it's like everything else. Your Germans and your Dutch, they're pretty hardcore into they're just pretty hardcore into analyzation and analytics and stuff like that. And I am kind of a numbers person. It's like there's still a human element to it, so I'm not a pure analytics person. But the Dutch and the Germans, that's how they kind of stay on top of things when they don't have the talent and they're playing less direct. It's kind of ironic that Germany is the one that was looking at the packing stat when they're about as indirect as it can get on some of those things on some of their builds. But it is what it is.
All right, thank you. Do you use that post game? Like, is that something that you do, that you analyze from the game, or is it more of I heard you talk about you use it in practice? Do you like the,
we use it. We use it in games as well. I'm fortunate enough where yeah, it's fine. I'm fortunate enough where we had Huddle Assist and we're going away from it. I guess we're going into another one, and so that took away a lot of my film analysis that I had to do at the end of every game. You know, back in the old days when we had to input all that fun stuff. So the time I used to spend on that now, I spend on packing, and it'll be packing. It'll be individual players is the way I'll mark it. So generally our film is good enough for me to know who the player is. So sometimes, you know, we have a couple extra stats there that I just don't know who do it. But I mean, yeah, all that time, you know, the 2 hours a game I used to spend breaking down all of our stats and passing and all that crap, Huddle Assist does that for us. And I'm told our district is now going away from it. So whatever the new one is, I don't know yet. And I'm told it's going to have the same crap. I don't know. But I can tell you Huddle Assist does a fantastic job at virtually everything. That being said, when we requested the packing stat with them, that was at the time something that they weren't able to do, just because I don't think they understood when I called customer service what I was asking them to do. That being said, as they have more soccer people on there, that might be something that they're a bit more familiar with, and you have that opportunity. I just don't know, but that's what we ended up doing from the game film, and then that was part of our team breakdown. Because the day after our games is generally a recovery day for us since we're playing so many games. So part of our recovery is after we're doing our stretching and our ice bath, we'll do very, very short film sessions where we're doing highlights and lowlights of the game, and then we'll also look at the statistical analysis of things. So like that's where Huddle Assist really comes into play, and then I also have our SPT. Which is our GPS tracking and stuff like that. So we can look at different individuals there. So yeah, Venable, I just saw that. Yeah, I'll be glad to talk with you about SPT or anyone about SPT. It's been great for us, but I've brought a lot more analytics into it. Now I also have a full-time dedicated assistant coach. So a lot of folks don't have that. I'm soccer full-time. I'm not second sport. He's soccer full-time. He's not second sport. My third coach is football, but he's also a soccer guy. So I also have competent assistants. So I'm super duper blessed, and I'm also blessed with the block schedule. So I've got a lot of crap going for me that a lot of folks don't have. So, I mean, so that's taking that into account is why I'm doing a little bit more. Huddle Assist, I think for us last year, I think was $800. Someone just asked that one. Yeah, I am a jerk. I know. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, Coach. I get long-winded.
Yeah, to plug the Huddle Assist, it was well worth the $800 that it has, because I mean, just think about the hours that we used to spend breaking down that film. It's done instantly, and the kids love it because it'll track them as well, and it makes it so much easier to watch film.
Yeah, and there's there's so many cool things out there too. But with the Huddle Assist, like you can pay for the 24-hour turnaround or the 12-hour turnaround, which is like a couple more $100 expensive. Don't waste your time. I don't think I put a game in that night. By the time I get an email about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning that paying your game's done. So yeah. I mean, I think the last couple of years we paid for the 2-day turnaround. It's never taken more than 10 to 12 hours. But I mean, there's also your player maker things too that are kind of like the SPT that you put on your boots. Those are expensive. So I don't have those, but if you can get those automatically talk to Huddle, and since they're on the player's left and right boot, it's GPS tracking. It can also track passes intercepted, number of times they used their left foot, touches on the right foot, all that fun stuff. And then it's also hooked up with Huddle, where if that kid wants to make their highlight films, all they have to do is say, all right, player number 14, and it'll bring up every time that kid touched the ball 10 seconds before and 10 seconds after every single time that player touched the ball. So now the kids don't have to go through and dig for their highlight reels anymore. That being said, I think it's like $150 per set per year. I know that they're working on a Tasco deal. I bet you Coach Kruger could do something for us on that. I know they're working on. I know I'm throwing you under the bus, Jimmy. They're working on a Tasco or a high school deal because it's a lot of professional clubs do use it, but it's starting to get now down to the club and high school level, and we've talked with them. I know through Tasco several times. And yeah, I know it's my whole budget. No, it's more than my budget. So where they're looking at making a high school package. So again, that's one of those pipe dreams. But as the technology gets better, hopefully those prices start coming down, and as they start getting competition, those prices come down too. But just be aware that stuff like that's out there. And if you
What's
have
the name of that?
I'm pretty sure that's the Player Maker. I had to double check. They were one of our vendors this past year at the Tasco Clinic, and Dave Newberry ran a session with that where some of the coaches threw those on their spikes when they were out there, or their flats when they were out there, and then afterwards it did an instant analysis of that. And so, after Dave got done talking, they could go over to the Player Maker booth and they could show them instant breakdown of that. I'm not sure if it's but I'm like 80% sure it's Player Maker. I'd have to double check that. Now there you go.
There you go.
So that's just something
else. I see it here with the thing you strap on the shoes.
Yeah, that's way outside my budget. I know Rusty Oglesby is going to have them this year at John Paul, so he might be able to tell us a little bit later how that worked out, because he's at a private school and they have rich kids and stuff. So he might be able to tell us how that works out. I don't know of anyone else who has it, but we can dig. But that seemed pretty cool too.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Fred before we close out the recording and then move on to the post? All right. Well, that being said, hey, thank you all very much for getting up your Saturday morning. Hey, we appreciate all y'all in attendance, and as always, we look forward to seeing you guys every Saturday morning. And now it's going to be Sunday, so we're going to start moving it to Sunday. And it looks like overwhelmingly, I don't think I had anybody in the chat say that Sunday at 7 wasn't a good time. But I feel like this is, in the beginning, the reason we did it is because the COVID situation, nobody was planning doing anything, so Saturday made sense. But, I think we get back to getting 16 people here is good, considering everything that everybody has usually on a Saturday morning. So starting next week, we're going to be moving to Sunday at 7 p.m. Thank you all for your attendance. Once again, if you will take a second, if you haven't already registered for the weekly email list, if you'll go to the contact list, and every time that we set up the webinar, I'll send you a personal invite with the link, and then as well the resource page. So if you want this website or this set of resources, PowerPoints, and it dates all the way back to the first day we did it, you have access to every single one of them. And I'll tell you what, unbelievable amount of information that's unbelievably helpful for any coach at any level within that. And I mean, I've learned so much over the past, I guess what are we doing? It's like 6 months now, 7 months. Yeah, so for that past 7 months, it's been really eye-opening and informative, and I've enjoyed the heck out of it. I think I've gotten more out of it than pretty much everybody, because there's a lot of great speakers, a lot of great ideas. But once again, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next Sunday.